Peaceful, respective greetings to all of you. Welcome to Karmic Dynasty. Today, I have with me King Adonnis. Welcome to Karmic Dynasty. This is your first time here. Such an honor. Today, he will be speaking on emotional thinking, balancing, and so much more. Now, as most of all of you know, you're familiar with Karmic Dynasty. This platform is unscripted. So when King Adonis has the floor, he has the floor. And he will speak in on what he wants to speak on and how he wants to speak on it here on Karmic Dynasty. King Adonis, again, welcome. And if you would introduce yourself and open as you see best. Gratitude.
Peace to the family, peace to the tribe, peace to the Galactic Federations, Cosmics of Light, peace to the ancestors. Gratitude is always the first and highest vibration that I operate out of because when you maintain an attitude of gratitude, the doors open for you in ways that we never saw possible. And I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be on this platform, and I'm grateful to have this opportunity of life and being present in this moment. Ashe.
Ashe. All right. So now I always start off my broadcast to the best of my memory mind to tell everyone how I came about the topic. So, as I mentioned in my last broadcast, King Adonis and I are some of the few working in part with the Ramesh Hebka annual event in Atlanta, September 2023. I know King Adonis via Instagram,
TikTok, social
TikTok,
media platforms.
yes, social media platforms. And on TikTok, he was fierce, raging, fire. I felt him. And I was like, inbox, King Adonis, can we, can I get you on the platform? Can I? He was like, yeah, sure. What you want to? I said, whatever you want to talk about, bring it. So we're here. So,
Ashe.
Shay, if you would share more with us, share more on this
So
emotional thinking
essentially,
balancing.
I'm sorry?
On the emotional thinking balancing. Yes.
Yes. So essentially, I got to get into myself because if I don't start with myself, then I really don't have direction because when you start with yourself, you get all the answers. Every door gets opened the moment that you stop worrying about whatever you're going through. Got my Palo Santo here to bring in that good positive energy, removing all disagreeable energies now in this moment and forever in the future. Ashe. So when you start with yourself, so let's get into astrology because the stars are very important. So when you know the stars above, you're able to start with the stars within. And my
Yes.
natal chart, I have Cancer in my sun sign, Mercury, Venus, and my Mars.
Wow.
So there's a lot of water yin energy, and that really played a part into how I came to be, and just as much for all of us. So, be growing up as an emotional thinker and being and resonating in my more emotional side, not unconscious of how emotional I actually was. I was able to, when I grew up, my son progressed into Leo. So difference between your natal sign, your progress sign is just the year. And when I looked into my natal sign or the progress, I was able to discern that my fire sign or the balance in between the energies that I was used to growing up with was now coming to surface. And it's literally been life changing lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson up to the point where now my solar return is this upcoming Wednesday. And I've actually fallen back from social media platforms due to the fact that I'm taking this time to self because I know that the messages are already there and the messages that I need to say will get said to those that I need to in person, and by through the work of being living in my most authentic self at all times.
Yes. You mentioned that Cancer cross your chart like that. Yeah, I studied my chart as well. In speaking of charts, this why I left Brother Nook Raw's comment up here. I shade Brother Nook Raw. He had a clubhouse meeting last night, and astrology came up, and we were talking about the um the different levels of awareness of astrology, and we also spoke on how do different cultures have different glyphs and symbols for astrology.
Hmm.
So
And
we
yeah,
discussed that.
I feel like it's so many different ways to look at the same thing. So even when you're just getting into astrology, you go to look up a birth chart. There's your tropical, there's your sidereal, and then there's a bunch of little aspects. There's asteroids. There's so many different parts that play into just the entirety of a natal chart. So that's why. So and it's all about you. It's all about you. So in my in my life, I've come to learn that the entire purpose is to experience how much you know yourself. How much do you know YOU? You being able to get into the different aspects of yourself and then being able to figure out how that correlates with your mind, with your body, with the planets, the stars that are within you. So for example, my natal Pluto was in conjunction with my sun. That was a very enlightening day for me because I was able to reflect on some things that I didn't know that I needed to heal from. And it
Hmm.
hit me like an emotional breakdown out of nowhere. Like sometimes I just want to cry and don't know why. And then I cry and then I figure out, okay, that was why I needed to cry. And then oftentimes there's a stigmatism around just being a male figure in general. You're not allowed to cry. Says who? Tears come down from my face, and I'm gonna cry if if I want to cry because that's how I'm able to release. Because even throwing up, a lot of people don't like to throw up or barf. Excuse me, and it's an uncomfortable type of experience. But if you learn to become comfortable with the release, you learn to be okay within yourself and know what's going on and know how to be able to live in that present because the present was always a gift. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes, yes.
The gift
Moment
that keeps
after
on
moment. Yes, and one thing when I actually got into astrology and through reading my birth chart, curious of what did my mother see when she was here, because she studied astrology. So yeah, when she transitioned, and part of my healing process was getting to know more about her. So I looked into astrology, I looked at my chart, and one of the great takeaways I got from the astrology teaching is that I'm not just one sign, that I am
the entire
parts of the entire I am the entire chart. A portion of me is the entire chart because I am so much more than the chart. But
right.
yeah, there, and to identify, once I realized that, to identify with each sign and to help me determine which side of me is being represented through which sign at which time, I put people I know. Like my mother is a Taurus. So I erased, because I drew out my own chart and I did many charts. So where Taurus would be, I put my mother's name. Where Cancer was at, I put my daddy's name. You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. So I could easily identify with each sign before I learned the characteristics and aspects and parts of each sign.
That's powerful.
Yeah, and we keep on. I'm gonna run upstairs and get my astrology binder because it's upstairs. All about me. I what?
Yes, I actually did a few workbooks like for myself, specifically on the different levels of astrology, because you can
Hmm.
go into the deacons. You can go into all the different levels of astrology, and when you go through those different levels, you start to understand those parts of yourself. So, for example, my Saturn is in Taurus. My mom is also a Taurus. So there's that Taurus Cancer relationship where it can be kind of rough sometimes, but there's always a nice balance that sets it off. There's always a balance that can bring you into a specific degree of self, because the day that you were born is also a reflection of the degree that you were born, which is a reflection of you, because everything always comes back to you. And the reason why I feel like emotional balancing is important is because it comes from, so astrology is basically a how to on understanding you. So it's the planets is what's the planets are like what's happening, the zodiacs are how they are happening to us. So you look at that and then you look at what's going on and how you were created initially, and then you look at how the energy is being manipulated on you on a specific day, time, hour. It shows. And once you take that awareness, you're able to balance out, okay, I recognize that this isn't really what I need to be studying right now. Okay, this isn't really what I need to be focusing on. Okay, I recognize that I'm reacting to a scenario right now and I'm not really living in my own self. It really shows in each and every day, because I'm ruled by the moon. The moon changes its cycle every 2.5 days. It changes its energy completely every two and a half days, and it's not even just the energy; it's changing its position as well, because you got a waxing, waning, full, new, consistent change all the time, going through the full circle. And it's a roller coaster. It's an emotional roller coaster, and the balance in that comes from the awareness of self. The two halves of the hemispheres, the right brain and the left brain, the feminine and the masculine, the
Yes.
the being able to know where you're at and know how to express those energies in a healthy fashion, because it all plays a part. When you're in the new moon, you're starting stuff. You're beginning
Mm-hmm.
anew. You're releasing. You're setting forth those new intentions. On the full moon, it rises up to the full moon, so that we come into that full scope, that full power, the full recollection, the full realization of what's going on. Then it starts to go back down until we see how that full impact hit us, and it's a time of reflection almost. But it happens for different people, because even in females, they get their women cycles on different times, because we all come in at different times. We all have different planetary positions on the inside, and it reflects, which is why you can even synchronize yourself with the power of intent.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Are do you study more than one astrology type?
I would say that I study frequency. So the frequency of astrology comes in zodiacs. The frequency of healing comes to everybody in their own shape, form, or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And with astrology, per se. It's just about where you're at and who you choose to believe created it. Because the thing about
Right.
astrology is, or it's all about the sun. It's all about the sun. And when you know that there's different suns, there's a different way to calculate the distance from the sun, your position from the sun. It's all the same. It's all the same. You just got to find where you resonate at.
Yeah. So for me, we discussed the moon and brief and the sun. One thing I learned about that surprised me was the Midhaven
Mm,
in Western astrology. And for me, it represented the past life, the South Node. I'm thinking about the South Node. And then the North Node, if I got this right, I had to go get my paperwork maybe. The North Node represents the future life. And whichever way it is, they are always directly across from each other.
right.
So if you know your South Node, just go straight direct across the chart, and then that's your North Node. It's opposite each
Yeah,
other.
your north node usually sits between the ninth and the 10th house, or the eighth and
Hmm.
the ninth house. I'm not sure, but it's usually right up somewhere in the middle. And it's funny that you mentioned the north nodes and the nodes,
I'm gonna go
because
grab my binder.
my my north node is also natally in Cancer as well. So there's that Cancer energy coming through again for me, as well as my transitioning Lilith, which is also known as the South Node, is in Cancer currently. So there we go with that full switch, full circle, full 22, which is how old I'll be turning, or how young I'll be turning, and going into this cycle, which is a master number, which is the year of mastery. Because for me, four is the number of completion, and then that's when you get into the numerology of the things, because it all comes down to one. So when you get into astrology, and then you combine it with the other ways to go into self, it's just like, oh, this door just opened, but I went through this door and it brought me back to this door, because this door was the only door that I really needed to focus on, because it'll take you through the different doors, through the different stargates within yourself, so that you can see the stargates in the heavens above, in the stars. It's raining really hard. That's truth.
And you are, where are you sharing where your location right now with us?
Am I? I mean, right now I'm in San Juan, Puerto Rico for my solar return. Just
Happy
going
solar
through the
return.
motion.
Yes.
It's been an amazing experience. I can honestly say it's been an amazing experience. It's been a
Mm-hmm.
little testy because the experience is completely spirit led. So I haven't come out here knowing when I'm gonna return, where I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna stay at completely, where any details that you would want to know as a parent or just as a self, to know that you're
Mm-hmm.
going to be okay, and letting go of all of those worries.
Yeah.
Letting go of all of those worries has allowed me to just be present consistently. And now, if I'm not present, my mind starts to hurt, because when you try and
Mm-hmm.
figure out the things that you want, or the things how you think it's supposed to go,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't go the way that you want, because it's already been done.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I can say that,
Mm.
in retrospect at least, because when you're going
Right.
through those doors, those journeys, you got to be able to recognize what you're going through, deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
and then be like, okay, I'm still here and I can still make a difference. What do I need to
Yes. That's
do?
right.
And that has saved me a lot through this life in general, not even just through this trip, because people have called me crazy for trying to get a one-way ticket to a place that I've never been before, traveling by myself to a place that I've never been before, and all of the other different types of worries and levels of fear that just don't live within me. And when people project that onto you and you take that and you let it resonate, is when you allow that power control over you. And I refuse to give that the power because I know the moment that you stop worrying about something, it'll get better. The ancestors will take care of you because they are your first line of defense, whether you want them to be or not. And that goes
Yep.
back into the power of our consciousness. Our consciousness operates whether we want it to or not. It's
Yes.
auto. It's not even a subconscious. It's an auto consciousness because it's always
Mm.
operating. It's the
Mm-hmm.
beauty of the soul. It's eternal and timeless.
Yes. And speaking of eternal and timeless, but right quick, I'm a reference for those that don't know. You are my third guest in the studio today. And all of y'all have been consistent with speaking on eternal timelessness. And how I sum it up all together is to say there was a beginning implies there is an ending. If you say you're internal, people who say they're internal and have eternal thoughts and mindsets, then there was no beginning. For those that like to argue certain texts that say in the beginning there was, the beginning does not exist.
Yes. And I just was having a conversation about the Bible because I'm a preacher's grandkid. I was born and raised in the church in Baltimore, Maryland. That's where my mother's family's from. My father's family, they're from all over, all over. I got mixed genetics from everywhere. And I always go back to the Bible because for a lot of our people, that is where we were programmed. And I grew up under the black sheep of the family. So my mom was technically the black sheep of the family because she was the seventh daughter of my great grand. So my great grandmother had 12 kids. My grandmother is the oldest. My mother is the seventh child of my grandparents, right? So I'm my mother's only son. And that was a fly on the wall perspective, so to speak, because of the way that my mother was treated, because of that in between. There's an in betweenness about time where you can choose to live in the past, you can choose to live in the future, or you can choose to be present. And when you stay in that in between of the present, you always take awareness and accountability for what you see and what other people are doing. Because sometimes you can see yourself doing certain things, and then you can see somebody else doing that same thing in a different way, and it resonates with you on a whole different level. So it's that fly on the wall perspective to be able to take myself out of the situation and see things as a 360. The train, I'm sorry, the train of thought, it just went that way. I'm trying to get it back. I'm trying to get it
It's
back.
cool. I was like, they got trains where you at? Yeah, you
That's
talking
why
about that fly on that wall. It's just something going on over here. I'm like, that fly did what over here? Goodness.
it's so amazing.
It is. I got it's somebody here in the studio with me right now. And I had went up, well, anyway. They were sitting there and had their hand like this. And I was like, what is that on your hand? It was like a fly. I said, oh, what you do? Kill the fly? You just holding it? It was like, no, the fly just came and sat. The fly's alive, just sitting there. I'm like, wow.
They
Wow,
do
I've not
that.
seen it.
Flies are messengers. Flies are messengers. They carry
I've not
messages.
seen that
I don't
before.
like
Tell
the
me what.
messages that they carry, but they do carry messages for sure.
What kind of messages do they carry? Besides the feces that I know they carry, that's a message too.
Well,
I go
in
wash my
my
hands.
uh in my history of life, I've learned that flies, they work for the dead. And there's a beauty in death because certain things have to die in order to live. So think of a phoenix. A phoenix can 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 combust in at any spontaneous combustion, right? It can spontaneously combust at any point in time, and it'll grow again from the ashes. In myth, whether you choose to believe it, and even on a more physical level, when you eat a fruit that's it's considered dead, but you're also able to plant that same seed in the ground and then bring forth new life. It's all the cycle. It's the life and the death. If you don't know, well, truly there is no real death of this vessel, of our soul. Well, the death of the vessel can happen. The soul is different though, because the soul is eternal. Pardon me. When you understand that the soul is timeless and that the vessel can be timeless, you have the power to create the existence that you want to be in. Oh my goodness. I ask myself, what exists outside of existence? Existence. You can will yourself in and out of existence if you choose to. Anything you
Hmm.
choose to believe becomes a part of you.
Interesting. Okay, so the messenger, the flies, the messenger. I'm gonna get feedback from my studio guests later and see if how they resonate with it. Really.
For me, because to each his own. It's all about how you
Mm-hmm.
choose to allow it to come into your reality,
Yep.
which goes back to the circles of the creation, right? So on my
Mm-hmm.
hand, I actually have. Can you see it? It's the seven circles of creation, really, and like the Bible, it talks about how the world, the earth, was created in 7 days, and on the first day there was this, on the second day was that. So I use this as a teaching tool because one day I was doing a mental experiment and I asked Source to show itself to me because I, for so long, grew up in a system where God is this, God is that, God is this. Never question or to question is incorrect. So I taught myself to be curious on purpose. So when I thought about the power, the lucky number seven, right? So there's actually six circles that can create the seventh circle. But the seventh circle was the first circle because, as above, so below, everything comes back full circle. When you see how it starts in on the first, right? And then when you start with the one, when you start with the dot, and then you go expand yourself, you see yourself within that 360. You get to see yourself within what's going on. Like, hey, what's going on? Okay, you get to see, and when you take yourself outside of that, you get to
Mm-hmm.
observe what's going
Mm-hmm.
on. And now you get to see what's happening in the full 360. And now, because you see what's happening in the full, you get to appreciate the balance, the duality, that yin and the yang, that Cancer. Can you see? I got a Cancer tattoo right here for my zodiac sign. It's
Mm-mm,
that
I didn't see it.
balance of the eternal fishes, that Pisces energy, that completion,
Mm-hmm.
that mm, that was a download for me. That circle, that spiral, the yin and yang, the instant, constant flow. And then after you appreciate that, you get that third, that trinity, that mother, father creation, that combination of the two allows for the creation to come forth, which gives you the three. And then you get it just goes on, it goes on and on. So you go to the fourth day. Fourth day, you got the four directions, the four corners, the four elements, the four stages of matter. And it's the four completion, the four that brings us together. And when you get the four from the two, because it's all divisible, which is why there's no such thing as an odd number. They're all even because they all stand in between something else.
Okay, run that by me one more time. There is no such thing as an odd number.
Because every number stands in between another number. So infinity stands between two different infinities. It's just a matter of perspective of which infinity you choose to put yourself in.
Wow. Okay, that was more.
So, right, we see the infinity, right? We see the infinity as
Yeah, I'm
a
processing. Yeah, that's you hit me with one
two-dimensional
right
figure
after I got
going like
the other.
this, right?
Mm-hmm.
We see the infinity going like this. But what
Like
happens
in my
when we take
logo.
ourselves out of this 3D platform and we become that fourth dimensional being, and now we're seeing the 3D as like cones almost, right?
Oh.
So it's like a
Mm-hmm.
cone now where we got energy flowing, and it's no longer just the flat.
Wow, look at me
It's now
getting this.
coming in and out. It's a pattern, right? So now you
Okay.
elevate the consciousness into a fifth dimensional being, right? So now you're no longer going in and out. Now time is now the fourth dimension, they correlate with time. You take yourself out of time and you're still flowing within. You're now flowing in the same cycle, but it's just not that structure of the time that we have put it in, right?
Right.
And then you keep expanding on the levels.
Okay.
It's a
Wow.
it's a it's a it's a trip. Yeah, you start slow. You got to start
Yeah.
with the two, because when you pull the infinity apart, if you pull it on both ends, it'll be a straight line. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
1D. We don't even operate. We don't even see it. If you pull it apart, it's
Yeah.
just going to be a straight line. But we know
Mm-hmm.
that it's the duality, that infinite. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
two, and then you
Yeah.
switch. You, in order for you to perceive it as two, you already have to be three, because you can't be
Right.
inside of a situation that you
You
can
gotta be
handle at
outside.
that time. You got to take yourself
Mm-hmm.
out of it in order to be able to
Mm-hmm.
see what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
Okay.
you flowing. You got the two different types of flows, and this is the two dimensional. And when we go to the
Okay.
third dimensional, we got that release and the exchange, the give, the take, the push and the pull. But
Mm-hmm.
it's still this, but it's now a spiral because
Right.
it's coming in and out. It's This is the
Mm-hmm.
best way that I can describe it in my mind's eye.
Mm-hmm. I'm
So
with
after
you.
Okay. And then after you're able to take it, imagine it spinning.
Mm-hmm.
You already got a spinning, it's like you already got a spinning kind of like tourist fields in a sense. And then it's like your Merkaba. The I call them. I listen to the meditation of healing pyramids, where as above so below. There's a pyramid on the below and a pyramid on the above, and they're spinning simultaneously. But we imagine them spinning counterclockwise and clockwise. But what about how they spin above and below, to the right and the left? Understanding that the grid is more than just a Y and an X, seeing it as the X, Y, and the Z, the direction. There's a difference in the direction from here. Just that alone, there's a difference in the direction. So now that you're
Mm-hmm.
able to obtain a different set of direction, you're able to move forward in a different path. And the
Mm-hmm.
path is always going to lead you from a different one than you were before, because you took that knowledge that you have, your ancestors, your the people, the wisdom that came before you. You took that wisdom. You didn't just You took it with you, held on to it, utilized it, made it your own. Now you're able to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Now, personally, for me, when you mentioned the XY, I thought of algebra. It took me back to high school. I had a flashback for sure. Wow. Okay.
And that's the thing about the sacred geometry, the sacred mathematics. It all correlates to the same thing because the geometry of it all stimulates down to numbers, the numerology. So we got in the first was the first number one, the sun, two, the moon, the mother, three, the family. That's how when you really study the numbers. There's a book. It's called Tantra and Numerology, and it really goes into the correlation between the numbers and the planets and even your birthday. As every your name, your birthday, everything has a significance, has a vibrational frequency. Even your organs have a vibrational frequency. The brother was just on here talking about breathing, and breathing is, yes, this is the book with numerology, tantra, and astrology. This is the book that can connect the dots for you,
Okay. Yeah,
especially
I've
when
had
dealing
a
with the planetary positions.
yeah, I've had an Ayurvedic astrologer on my broadcast, my platform before. Yeah, and I learned some things then that more of the Ayurveda from that broadcast.
I'm sorry
Because
about that. Say that again.
my viewpoint on Ayurveda was for healing, for natural healing and awareness of myself, more of an awareness on myself, and in regards to the elements within myself that I need to cater to for helping
Ashe,
me. Hmm.
Ashe. Because every planetary body, everything has a face, has an energy, has a cycle, and we all need to become, the more that we become more aware of ourselves is how we become more aware of that healing that we need to take within ourselves. And when we're able to take that healing within ourselves and able to implement it in the world that we live in, we're able to do immaculate things that we never even thought was possible. I've shocked myself too many times, too many times to say that it doesn't work.
Hmm. Hmm. I talked to somebody about that today. I was like, things that I had shared an experience that I was going through earlier today, and I was like, things like this. That's why can't nobody say nothing to me. They can't talk to me. They cannot tell me. Cause I know I done lived it. And then that's part of where my strength and my stance come from in life. And people be wanting to like say I'm unapproachable or I'm standoffish because I know me. I'm confident in what I know about me. So that offends them. They feel uncomfortable. Well, to me, that's personal. You go deal with it. You go find your comfort and your strength in yourself. I'm cool with mine and I'm looking forward to gaining more. So I'm just going to stay strong within my confidence of myself. That's just how I walk at most times. And I'm going to say at all times. Sometimes I don't even recognize I'm walking in that manner, but I am. It's always with me.
And that's the thing, that auto conscious is automatic. And whether it's not a sub, there's nothing sub about it because it's always working, whether you're conscious of it or not. It's still gonna operate. You're still gonna have those feelings. You're still gonna have those emotions, whether you choose to react to it, whether you choose not to react on it. It's about the choice in the moment and being able to make that choice and not reacting off of what you think is for you instead of just taking a second and being present and just stop worrying about it.
Yes,
But
yes.
also having discernment to know what's good for you. So earlier
Mm-hmm.
today, I got called a term that I'm not going to repeat because it didn't resonate with my energy because of the lack of understanding on the other half of the receiving end of the conversation. And it's funny because in that conversation, they told themselves to shut up and listen to what I was saying because they heard their auto conscious knew what I was saying 3939. What knew was the truth, lol, was the truth. And then at the same time, were still trying to deflect themselves from realizing that truth, because we all find our truths in our own relative time. And like we as healers cannot force healing upon nobody. You have to choose to want the healing and also be willing to accept how the healing comes, because the healing was already meant to be, especially during these types of time, these days and times. It's all about the choice. Because we choose our parents, we choose the lives, we choose our counterparts, we choose our relationships before we even get into this physical flesh. And that was a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. I just had a conversation with my father not too long ago. I knew
Mm-hmm.
my father wasn't going to be around for me to grow up. I knew my father was a, I knew all of the types of things that my mother was going to put me through. I knew the types of relationship that they were going to have in order for me to become the man that I needed to be today. And if I and if it did not happen, I don't know who I would be. And I'm glad for the person. I'm grateful for the person that I am today, because if because I'm able to look back and see how it helped me and where I needed to grow from it.
Yep, that flow. That's what's important. Definitely. So speaking of flow, you mentioned it's raining. That's what you said.
In Puerto Rico,
Cause it was
it's
raining
warm
earlier, right?
here.
Or was it last night? You said it was raining, and I was like, I
So
like to walk in the rainstorms.
Puerto Rico is really funny. And it's not even just Puerto Rico. It's really me. It's really me. I've noticed that being here, my energy, I have a specific type of geomagnetic energy that connects with the water. And if I'm doing something that serves in my highest alignment, the rain will slow down for me to get done what I need to get done. But when I'm stagnant, questioning, wondering, like, oh, if I should purchase this place, should I stay here? Should I do this? It'll rain harder. I'll get frustrated and it won't work out for me. And then I get this, which is the nozzly of the release that I didn't do in the moment. And the information comes here, and then I have to release.
Wow, you know what? I have witnessed the my relationship with water as well, with rain, definitely. And I do have a relationship with water, which is brought to my
We
attention
are
in the
water.
reading. Yeah. And the effects and how it reacts according to my emotional state or my status in life at that time. And one thing I noticed is, and I shared it before publicly on broadcast, is like when I travel, because I've been doing my lecture tours for the past this is my second year, and I travel a lot by car. And when I travel by car, it does not rain. When it will rain, but soon as I get in the car, it'll stop. And when I get to my destination, then it'll rain if it's going to rain. It does not rain while I'm on the road.
And it
Now,
won't.
it won't. It won't. And if it, then the one time it rained because I was going through this, like, this push, this pull with somebody, this conflict. And I was like, you might want to not do that. I don't know why I said it, but next thing I know, it just, the rain just poured. Like you couldn't even see through the windshield. And I was like, there ain't nothing but the rain washing all your shit away. You must be mindful. And as soon as I got done with that little spill, it stopped raining. I said, yeah, that rain came through to wash all your negatives away from me. Because I don't roll like that.
And it happens just that quick. It happens just that quick. I remember when I drove across the country. I drove from Portland, Oregon to New York City in like 2.5 days by myself. And it was a beautiful drive, a very beautiful drive. 4442. I seen the entire sky turn into a rainbow, and it was just like my first time taking notice of how the sky above reflects the rainbow within. And I love to see how we are a reflection of nature in every way, because nature isn't perfect and neither is we. And that's what makes us so perfect, because as she is, we are. Oh, yes, the drive was so beautiful. So, 2.5 days. And what I learned about myself from that drive is that I'm protected, because at the same time when I was making that drive, there was 30 different tornadoes that struck the entire United States. But somehow I didn't have one passing rain cloud throughout my entire drive of 3,000 miles across the United States of America. That week where all those
Right.
tornadoes in that mid, it was the whole, I have friends in Memphis, like, yeah, we got power outages for this long, this, and it was
Mm-hmm.
um it was tornadoes happening,
Okay.
because I was
Right.
driving, I didn't see none of that. I seen the sky turn into a rainbow. So
Yes.
how could I do
Yeah.
that? It was just like, okay, well, that wasn't for me. I'm living in my purpose.
Right. And I remember last year, one time, I was driving somewhere where there was heavy rain. It was flooding, washing out roads and bridges, and I was headed that direction. Now, I don't watch the news, pay attention. I only know the part I'm telling y'all now because a relative of mine with her caring self called me with concern. And I'm like, I don't know nothing about none of that. And she was like, well, you might want to. I'm like, look, when I travel, when it's time for me to go, I just go. I don't look at the weather forecast. I don't even look at it to know how I should dress like some people do. I just put on what I feel like. I just go. I don't look at the weather and see what they say it is to know if I want to wear shorts or pants or sandals or tennis shoes. Or I just don't do that. I just go. So, sure enough, I had to go dig and dive in ahead of time on my path for her. And I went into these news stories, and these news stories that she was reading, they were about little small areas where they did not have the access for the water to go away, to subside. So yeah, it took over. I'm be on the main roads, the highways. The water is not up that high. XYZ. I did my best to calm her down and relieve her and all that. But yeah, along the way, I checked in, let her know, yes, I'm still okay. Yes, I'm still fine. And that whole time, it did not rain one drop until after I got there. And it was the next day when it rained. It wasn't even the same day I arrived.
And
Yes.
that's the power of the consciousness, the power to choose in which reality that you want to live in. Because even in just those small moments where people are offering sympathy or some affection, where they genuinely care, they're genuinely like, oh gosh, I gotta make sure, I gotta pick up the phone and make sure this person is going through this, because they're watching the news, they're paying attention to a reality of negativity. And you're just like, I don't even live in that reality. I didn't know that, I wasn't aware of this. And in that moment, you have to say that I don't live in that reality. Because I'm not living that reality, I could choose to continue to not really live in that reality, because people can speak. Because, like I said before, we are water. And yet, I always tell people, watch how you speak to people, because what you're saying to somebody else, you're really saying to yourself. Because water holds
That's it.
memory. Water holds memory. Our bodies are 85 to 90% water. If everything that I'm coming out of my mouth is positive, my body is vibrating positively, because what you do frequently becomes your frequency. So if my frequency is positive, that means that I'm frequently in a positive healing state. But if I'm frequently talking negative about people, or speaking negatively to other people, or telling them what I think that they should do, I'm speaking negative over myself for real, and it's really gonna come back and hurt me. Because in 2 3 weeks, You don't go talk to that person, or you might talk to that person, you watch and see what's going on. It's like, there's a slight little change here, there's a slight little change there, or there's no change here and there's no change there. You're going to take that second and see, like, hmm, how did that manifest? You wonder, how did that manifest? And it's because, like he said, sound creates form, sound creates life, water creates life. Wherever there's water, you will find life. I guarantee it. Wherever there's water, you'll find life, because water, and especially with under the sun, the light in the sun. That's why there was women first, because women carry the womb. Women carry the waters. They carry the waters, which allows them to be impregnated from the light of the sun. So you can do that if you choose to. It's the power of choice, the power of consciousness, the power of you knowing yourself and where you stand within yourself, and what you accept about yourself, and what others think that it is okay for them to put onto you. 555.
As one of the guests on the platform, frequent on the platform, Chief Elder Minister John D. Henry says, and he promotes and suggests as advice that we do, is before you go somewhere, visualize it, picture it how it is to be. So the example he uses is when you go to a store that there's a large parking and there's like rarely no parking. Before you go, visualize the parking spot near the door.
It
And then
works every
when you get
time.
there, it's open for you. Yes.
It works every time, because you chose to live in that reality. Every time I'm
Mhm.
driving on the highway, there is no traffic in my lane. If I switch lanes, there is no traffic in my lane, because I know that the doors are being opened for me to not have to deal with the crazy trauma of dealing with road rage and traffic, especially being in New York City. So there is no traffic in my lane. There is a parking spot designed specifically for me. I trust my relationship with abundance to handle all of my financial affairs, because there is no worry at all for me, because I choose it to not be. And that's the power of choice, the power of you. How much do you know yourself?
That's right. I agree. I live that life too. Yes, definitely.
And sometimes it's hard. It's not easy, because you choose to live by this life, you choose to live by
Hmm.
these things. And then sometimes the answers are not found in a book. It's not in the book. And you won't
That
find it
part.
in the book. You can't find it in a book. And sometimes you really, 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 really need an answer. And sometimes there is no answer. The answer just is to be. Just be present and stop worrying about it.
Yes.
Because sometimes it's not like, worry carries a negative connotation. The thought was first. In the beginning, consciousness decide thought to experience itself. It didn't speak experience itself, it thought experience itself. And then came the word. In order for you to speak something, you have to think it first. Which is why when I read the four agreements, the one of the agreements is, I speak
You
impeccable
read
with
the
my
Four
words.
Agreements too. I love that book.
Hold on, we gotta sound the bell for that book. We gotta sound the bell.
Yes, that book was life changing.
Yes.
And then to read the
And
backstory on the author, I was like, what? Yes.
it was
Sharon.
so powerful, because for me, when I read the four agreements, that first agreement that talks about speaking impeccable with your words, I thought to
Mm-hmm.
myself, if I need to speak impeccable, I need to be able to think impeccably. And
Right.
for me to be able to think impeccably, I gotta know something.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes more than just knowledge. It takes the wisdom. The knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding is the Trinity. The four best principles that really can set you off on any type of journey or anything that you're going into. And when you don't, oh, because you're always doing your best. You are always doing your best. Ashe. Ashe to
Yeah.
the four agreements.
I'll show you
And
to
when
the
you,
four agreements. I
yes,
like the don't take anything personally. That one moved mountains for me.
yes,
And the
yes,
way
yes,
that the don't make assumptions was worded in this book, that
yes,
was the next best one. And to
yes,
always do your best, only support it and be impeccable with your word, just close it all up for me. This book right here was life changing for me. If I think I will always, if no other book in life, I will always remember the four agreements.
yes. And then, like, when you take it and you allow it to resonate and you see your life change, it's like, okay, this is immaculate. And then with me, I like to take it and go. So I took it. I'm gonna speak impeccable with my words. I'm gonna think impeccable with my thoughts. I always do my best. Okay, if I'm always doing my best, then I don't need to do anything else because that's the best that I'm doing. If I'm not taking anything personally, that means that nobody can compliment me, nobody can talk negatively about me. That means that it was never for me because they were always talking to themselves. It was never really about me. I don't make any assumptions because I'm always doing my best. So what is there to assume?
Mm-hmm.
And you can just go on and on and on and on and on.
Yes.
Because the power comes with yourself. How much can you commit to yourself? How much do you know yourself? How much do you truly understand? Center stand, the center perspective of where you're supposed to be. It's a beautiful place. That fly on the wall.
Yeah. I like center stand. I like that. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna roll with that. Be
That
using
center,
that.
yes, Ashe. Center
Okay.
standing is a beautiful place to be. In the middle of
Mm-hmm.
yourself, and that's why I'm a number one supporter of I'm not gonna say that terminology of the mother's fungi. We call those the shrooms, and essentially when there's a master teacher, his name slips my mind in the present moment, but this man used to take high gram dosages of up to 33 to 51 milligrams of mushrooms with the power of intent, because a lot of people you hear about, they just take it for uh just for the because. And when you do stuff just because, you leave yourself vulnerable. But when you have intent behind a high empowering sustenance that can take you to a place, I just went to a place and came back because it happens on a consistent level. I haven't done anything like that before, but my consciousness is aware of it, which allows me to put it behind me, to supersede it in a way that's customarily fit for me. Because as a timeless being, things are going to come to us in our own relative time.
Interesting. I was looking right quick. I was over here Googling, see if what you said I can find that master teacher. I couldn't find it.
His name is I'll send you a message, but it's
Okay, that's
Baba. It's one of the master teachers. There's
okay.
so many master teachers.
Yeah.
He's no longer with us, but his work speaks for itself.
Okay.
His work speaks for itself, and I'll definitely send you that information as well.
Okay.
But
We can
definitely
include
looking
that
into
in part two.
the power of plant medicine. Plant
Mhm.
medicine is amazing.
Yeah, because I need to have you back on here, so we'll talk about him in part two.
Yes, man. We're about to reach that hour mark, so we
Oh,
should wrap on up.
okay. We can do that. All right. So Okay, our marquee says, y'all, we gonna wrap it up. So, King Adonis, if you would close for us, if you don't mind,
Well, I
and
would like
share once
to.
again your contact information with everyone as well. And again, welcome to Karmic Dynasty, an honor as always.
Gracias, mi amor. So, that's that Puerto Rico coming out. You little gotta
Yes,
switch it up for the locals sometimes. Because yo hablo español para hacer
poquito.
un poquito. That means a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Let's see how Spirit would like us to close out today. I would like to give gratitude to you first and foremost for allowing me to be present on your space. And I would also like to give gratitude to the ancestors. And let's close out with this quote. This book right here is my little journal, and I'm actually about to release it because it got wet in the rain all day because I was walking around for about 6, 7 hours trying to find a place to stay, trying to follow my spirit, had an emotional breakdown. It was such an amazing day though, choosing to be present. And I'm gonna transition this, but the word for the final thing in this book is I used to dream about escaping my ordinary life, but my life was never ordinary. I had simply failed to notice how extraordinary I was. Ashe, 101.
I say.
And with that, my contact information is at the bottom. It's ASAPTIMM on Instagram and TikTok. You can DM me there so we can get a more personal connection. I have no problem giving out my number. Gotta keep myself protected at all times. Accepting donations on Cash App at $ ASAPTIM. And I'm also giving out readings for the month of my birthday. I was doing
Mm.
it for the summer. It's really a summer thing, and it comes from the genuine from my heart. So I don't really charge, but I do accept donations because equivalent exchange is appreciated. And much gratitude to the audience listening now and in the future. Ashe.
Apologies, y'all. Apologies. Technical difficulties on my end. All right, so King Adonis is here. He has shared his closing and his personal information, and I appreciate him and his acceptance and patience through this time of my technical difficulties I'm over here experiencing. And
Infinite
um,
peace. Infinite peace.
infinite peace, y'all. Okay, and so I see everyone in here, and it's kind of late. Some people not commenting and stuff. They putting their babies to bed and all that other stuff. I'm glad you all are here. So, peace from Carmen Dynasty. Rest easy. The chief elder minister taught me that today. Rest easy.
Ashe.
I say.
Gratitude.